I thought maybe we could talk about, and it's another one of Craig's topics that he brought up relative to the JFK assassination.
Oh, you
Now, I
told me
know
about
you
that. Yeah.
weren't
Yeah.
born yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep reminding me how old I am. Go ahead. Anyway, yeah, but we can talk a little bit about defining moments. And like I said to you, Leslie wants to do this whole thing about what I call transforming moments. And she has a story that she picked up from NPR, and I can try and recount that, even though I won't do a terribly good job of it. I can try to recount that because she's trying to inspire people to submit essays about moments in their lives that made them better people, or
Yeah.
made them more empathic, or made a difference in their lives. And it seems to me we talked about that before,
Well,
but I can't
as
remember
far as
exactly.
specific like historic moments, that was our very first episode because, and you mentioned that in your
Right.
email to me, that was 9/11. But
Did we talk about personal ones?
I don't think that we did so much beyond that episode. I mean,
Okay.
we've talked a lot
So
about our
it would be
lives.
so it would be safe to be a little repetitive then.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
mean,
we it that's not a problem. Okay.
no, I don't think
So
so.
anyway,
Nothing
that's what I
stands
thought
out.
we could talk about, and we'll ramble from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily.
We're good at that.
Um, well, I was just thinking about that. I thought about it when you first told me about Leslie's wanting to do the essays for the expression, and I'm sitting. Okay, so what is one moment? And I'm like, wow, this is going to sound arrogant, and I don't mean it that way, but it's a truth. Take it as me being grateful by saying it this way. I've had such a cool life that I can't just pick one and say I was a better person that the next day.
Mhm.
There's so many things that I can pick that either make me grateful or make me a better person. Or one of the things I'll never forget, and we did talk about this guy, Jerry Davis, was a major league umpire and crew chief, and during the off season, those guys would go around giving speeches at like umpire association banquets and shit, and
Mhm.
they would record it and then release the tape, the audio tape, for other life. This was like the beginning of life coaching, when you get tapes like
Oh,
this.
oh, sure, sure, sure.
And he said we can learn by watching anybody do anything. You don't have
Mhm.
to find somebody that does something that you like to learn from it. You can find something that you don't like and say, I don't want to do that, or that's not going to
Right,
work for me.
right.
And that was a huge, and I took that through the rest of my life. And then speaking of baseball, the other one that stands out was my first year in minor league baseball. Like players, umpires have a slump. You have a rough time in a season or a career where things just aren't going the way they can go. And one of the things we do as a home plate umpire is you stand out watching the pitcher warm up, and as each pitch crosses the plate, you call it in your mind. Was that outside? Was that high? Was it a strike? So you get used to seeing that. You develop the muscle memory and tweak the muscle memory so that when you get behind the plate, you're going to do better. I was in Front Royal, Virginia, and doing just that, standing on the third base line. And I looked over my right shoulder, and at the end of the bleachers was this kid sitting in a wheelchair, having no idea that I sucked that night, just enjoying a baseball game with his dad. And I go, wow, I'm sitting here moping about sucking in a baseball game nobody's ever going to remember, in a career that's probably never going to go anywhere. And I was right about that. And that kid would kill to be standing here in my shoes. And
That
then,
took my breath away.
yeah. and my life's not so bad. And he
That
was
took
that was
forever.
where we come on and off the field that where this kid was sitting. So uh, I forget. I walked past him on the way out, and he said he or his dad. I think his dad said something like "good game" or "thanks for coming tonight" or something like that. And I said, "No, thank you, thanks for coming." And I gave the kid a baseball, which you can
Nice.
actually get fired for. Where umpires are not supposed to give.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I mean, the players throw baseballs in the stands all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's I don't know. I guess it's got something then, and maybe today it's changed, but back then that was a no for minor league umpires was to give away a baseball, um,
Yeah.
especially publicly, because I think the biggest thing is you're impartial, and they presume that everybody in the stands is from that home team, and now you're trying to buy favoritism, with the home team fans, whatever. I don't
Oh,
know,
okay.
but I didn't give a shit. If my career is really not going to go anywhere anyway, who cares? Fire me. Do me the favor.
Hmm. Of having to
Um,
make the decision on your own, huh?
oh, I made the decision on my own. When I was in umpire school, and that could be another moment, I saw some of the instructors who were minor league umpires in minor league baseball for 10 years and still in the lower levels of minor league baseball. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to make it. Figure it out. And that's the thing about A-type personalities is that they hold on. They can't just let go. How many? Not a good week to talk about mention this, but how many veterans do you know that retire from the military but still have a high and tight haircut?
Right.
Now, me saying that is I'm not at all ungrateful for their service, but
Mhm.
you've done so much to include keeping your hair like that. Let it go for a little bit.
Mhm.
And some of these people and that's the reason that they can't let it go. And these guys in 10 years in the minors, I'm like, you're not going to make it. And in that moment, I decided that if I felt that way about my career, not that I was having, I was in a slump, but if I could see that this is just not going to get me to Major League Baseball, I was going to leave at year 2 or 3 instead of year 10 or 13.
Well, and I know you've talked about this before, but just for our listeners, you, I mean, you moved from sports to enforcement.
Mm.
How did that happen?
It was just another calling. In eighth grade, um, between eighth and ninth grade, I went to Camp Cadet at I forget what the camp was. Um, the camp it's on 562 in Earl Township, just before Ole or Exeter Township. Um, it was an Indian name then, right off the Manatoni.
That's That's
I
Shikellamy.
Yes, yes, and that's where Camp Cadet was.
Wow.
And
My husband went. Yeah. Yeah.
um, I went to that, and it was basically like a week long police academy for kids. And one of the presenters were two agents from the Secret Service, and they passed around counterfeit currency and counterfeit credit cards, and some of it was really good, some of it you wouldn't use to play Monopoly. It sucked. And then they put a state trooper at the podium like he was the president, and they put another state trooper in the crowd of us kids with a water pistol. And when that state trooper drew the water pistol, the two agents who were on stage right and stage left reacted like they would with a real gun on a president.
Wow.
And I said, that's what I want to do.
No kidding. That was it.
Yeah. And if
Wow.
JD or Amy were to come to me and say, "Hey, we want to get into federal law enforcement. What do you think? What should we do?" I would tell them to apply for every single federal law enforcement job you can get, just for
Mhm.
purposes of getting your security clearance. And then
Mhm.
once you got the federal job, go to the actual agency that you want to work at. That's not
Mhm.
what I did. I applied to the Secret Service, and that was it.
That was it.
Because that's I wanted to do the protection.
Wow. And I would guess that calling in you to protect led you to adopt Zach.
Yeah, yeah, I've said that too. Actually, is that wow? That's good. Um, I've always wanted to start a family, even after I came to the realization that I'm gay, and remembered that day in health class. Um, uh, and with my age, I grew less as I grew older. Each year, I grew less and less interested in biologically having a child.
Mhm.
Just because I've seen kids my own age growing up whose parents were considerably older, and as a result, they couldn't, relate to each other. They couldn't coach the
Right,
little league football team or hockey team or baseball, whatever.
right.
My parents are 20 years older than I am. I'm the oldest, and they're 20 years older than I am. And Dad coached our little league. Mom was the what are they called? Team mother. Brought the
Yeah.
orange slices and kept score and whatever. Um, and so, adopting was a way for me to not only, start the family, but kind of sort of stay in touch with the law enforcement community. And Zach has said this, that I've saved him, that by getting him out of one system, the foster system,
What, foster care?
yeah, and keeping
Okay.
him out of another one, the criminal justice system, that's my continued contribution to the law enforcement community. That's one less arrest they're going to have to make.
Huh.
So enough about
So
me.
the
Enough about me. Your
what?
turn. You have any moments like that?
Oh boy. I was trying to think about moments like that, and like you said, there are many along the way. One of them I talked about in a previous episode when I talked about the young man who
Mm,
for whom I brought books
yeah.
because okay,
Yep. Yeah, I
because
like
he
that one.
was not, yeah, he was not loving life, and so I brought him books to inspire him. Okay, and that in in with the incident in my teaching where I had to come up with this, I believe, and that moment or those moments with that young man taught me that what I have is knowledge or experiences that come from reading or from literature or from other people's lives to share with others in order to inspire them. Now, think about that. I mean,
Yeah.
my podcast is Be Inspired.
Yeah. I
And so
I
it
say
all
that about
goes
your
back.
podcast too. Yours is something that society needs, because, and that's why I wanted David. I mean, we kind of learned that David's not a everyday person. He's one of the founders of Earthlink, and
Right. He's amazing. Oh
yeah,
my God.
but he is an inspirational person, and especially with what
Mhm.
he's doing now with his podcast. But what I love about yours is that you just take everyday normal people and
Mhm.
bring out the coolest shit.
Yeah. Isn't that the way we're going to bridge the divide
Yeah,
among people? Is the more you know about somebody, the more you like them. And that I guess that's important to me. And okay, so that triggered, as it were, a revelation right this second.
yeah,
I loved teaching the kids
Oh, I could tell
that
that.
were known back in the day as generals, who tried to give teachers a hard time. And I can remember, I loved, they were my favorite. They were my favorite because if I could get them interested, I mean, that was a stretch.
Do you think
But
that's
if I
why?
could get them not to hate me because I was a teacher, I figured I really won. And there's a young girl who, her name was Heather, and she'd come in and she was determined to get on my nerves. I mean, she would say things. I'm in the middle of presenting something, and she'd raise her hand. Can I go to the bathroom? I mean, in the middle of, you interrupt, you know, but that's what she was about. Okay. Anyway, so what I ended up doing was, of course, the unexpected, and I didn't get annoyed with her. I didn't get angry with her, but I ended up calling her sweetie pie. And it irked her so much that I was so nice to her. And she became my favorite. Okay. And that was not what she was determined to do in that class, if you understand. Anyway, she and I still, whenever I see her in town, I mean, she is still sweetie pie. And she knows it, and we have that joke between us because it was just lovely. I can remember, as part of my teaching I had to, what do you say, chaperone the prom.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
And I like to do that, and I was always most happy to see my general students, and they were most happy to see me at the prom because they were all dressed up. They were all fancy, and the honors kids like you. I mean, you expect that you'll look nice and that you'll behave well, but these kids were so happy to be at the prom, and I was so happy to see them all dressed up and made such a fuss about them. That was just fun. And I can remember I used to get, this was in my early career, I used to get very frustrated with these kinds of kids. And when my husband said to me, you really should, you're not good with these kids. You really should, ask to be the teacher of the gifted and, the accelerated kids and so forth. And it pissed me off. I took it as a challenge that,
good,
oh, so you don't think I'm any good with it? Well, let me just show you. And so
nice.
they became my favorite. And he recognized that, that maybe that he challenged. I
When
don't know that he recognized that he challenged me, but he did. And
when
then,
you've seen the
probably on the other end, go ahead,
sorry,
go
when
ahead.
you've seen Heather, you said you've seen Heather in throughout Boyertown or
Yes,
wherever. Does
yes.
she had she ever admitted to trying to push your buttons, or is
Oh,
that just you
no.
speaking as your experience? You just know it
It
because
was obvious.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Trust me. One,
yeah,
there's no secret about it. Yeah. And I've had other students like that, and I wasn't terribly good with them, but it was when students like her, I realized that I had evolved a little bit, that I had found something because she was very bright. But I had again found something in her that I really, really loved. And that, I mean, as you just said, that's what I do on Be Inspired. I
yeah,
want to bring out the gold of these of people, all people, because everybody's got something in them. And then on the other end of the spectrum, which I was just going to say, when I did when we debuted the first Bear Fever Bears, the first collection, 35 Bear Fever Bears, and a news reporter from the Boyertown Times came to school to interview me. And I had my students who worked the hardest, some of them, not all of them, but some of them who had worked the hardest with me on the project. I had them come in for that interview with the reporter. And Ross, listening to them when the reporter said, how have you benefited from being part of this project? And they went on at length about everything that they had learned from doing this project with me. I mean, I can remember sitting there listening to them and thinking, okay, I can die now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
That's
I've
nice.
done enough,
Yeah.
because what they said was that they believed in themselves so much that they could do anything that they put their mind to. Here's that toxic positivity again, huh?
Yeah.
But their experience taught them that they didn't need to be, and that's huge with me, that they didn't need to be afraid to fail, that they didn't need to be afraid to try, because bear fever, as my critics said at the time, well, what if this happens and what if that happens, and my response was always, I don't know, I've never done this before, but I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they learned that if they went to somebody and asked them to sponsor a bear and the person said no, it was okay. They'd go to the next person and maybe the next person would say yes. But like I said, what they learned, beyond the communication skills, beyond the networking, beyond all the writing and speaking and all that kind of stuff, was that they believed in themselves, that they could figure out what they needed to do and then go ahead and give it a shot and learn. If they weren't successful the first time around, that they could, adjust, be
Yeah.
flexible, figure it out again, seek help, you know. And like I said, I can remember sitting there thinking, okay, now I can die.
Wow. Yeah.
The
That's,
other moment for me, and this is real personal, the other transforming moment for me was with my own children. When I had to realize that I needed, no matter who else in my life, no matter who else in my life was telling me you should do this and gave me a choice between, if you support them, I can't support you, and having to say to myself, it is they, my children, who need me more. The adults who were giving me other information or other choices, I couldn't listen to them. I had to listen to my children because they needed me more than these adults needed me.
yeah.
So I was willing to let go of all the adults in my life in order to be there for my kids.
Who would give you an
So you
ultimatum
don't
like
need to
that?
know the details of that, but that was a very heavy. Also, my husband.
Oh, shout out to Paul.
Yeah, well, I shut him off. I should have shut down my phone.
I just had an alarm
So
go off on
anyway,
mine too that I didn't think we'd hit.
yeah. Anyway, it really serendipitous that that phone call happened at this moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Who would make an? I mean, I have an idea the family issue that may have caused that
sure,
dynamic,
yeah,
but who would give an ultimatum like that?
it never spoken,
Yeah.
never, just unspoken.
Yeah.
You're not being the best mother, okay? And again, not spoken,
Yeah.
not spoken.
Wow.
But as opposed to relying on somebody else's advice, and that's the only way I can express it to you, as opposed to relying on somebody else's advice about what to do, I had to rely on Jane.
Yeah.
And that,
Hold on a
I
second.
trust, that that was new for me.
Wow.
That was new for That was new for me because I've always been a good girl. Okay. I always did what I was told, always did follow people's advice, always followed the rules. And in that particular moment, I didn't. So there you go.
I got it here. It's just I'm scrolling through. Here it is. Have
Okay.
the courage to follow your heart and intuition.
Yep.
Steve Jobs.
No kidding. Oh, we're back to Steve.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was a moment for me.
And yeah, that's. But knowing what I know about what I suppose and what I think you kind of confirmed, the surrounding issue was, how is that even an option? What other option do you have?
You heard of tough love? You've
Yeah,
heard of tough love?
that's my anger
Okay.
porn. I don't have anger porn. I don't
Yeah.
just get angry, but I tell you what you need to hear. Moms for
Yeah.
Liberty is a hate group. The end.
Hmm. Well, uh, tough love says at this particular point, this is what you do. You turn off everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
But
So
tough love says that you mean like the family as well.
no, just the support.
Oh. Okay.
You, I know you've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an ex that went through that and is actually a counselor now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um.
So anyway, but what I wanted to talk about, one of the things from just to switch the topic a little bit, um, one of the essays our friend Craig shared with me is he said, "Isn't it? I wonder what." Let me go backwards. He shared an essay with me recalling because John F. Kennedy's assassination date, anniversary date, is coming up,
Yeah.
November the 22nd.
Yep.
And of course, while you're too young, I remember where I was. It was after school, 1:15 or so, after school when the announcement came over the PA system, and I was getting ready for basketball practice. That's where I was. Okay. So lots of folks my age remember where they were then. Of course, you and I talked about lots of folks today, our
Yeah.
age and older and younger, remember where they were on 9/11.
Right.
Okay. But one of the things Craig asked, or in his essay, was what about our grandkids? Or what about kids today who weren't born yet 9/11? What will be their moment, I wonder, he said. And it was interesting because I had a conversation recently with someone, and we determined that COVID, I judge a lot of time and events right now when I'm trying to think, when did that happen? Was it before COVID or after COVID? That has become a mark, a
Yeah.
historic mark,
Uh huh.
you know? And so, yeah, for me, it has become a historic mark, along with
Absolutely.
JFK's assassination, along with 9/11, just as December 7th was for my parents. So,
Yeah.
you have some thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, COVID's got to be a mark because it's something that happens every 100 years. And 100 years
Mhm.
ago on the dot, almost, was the Spanish flu.
Yeah, 1902. Yep,
Um, or that was it 18?
I thought it was 19. I could be wrong.
No. I mean, 1918.
Oh, right, right. Okay,
I think it was in like the World War One,
you're right. You're right.
like right before the Roaring Twenties. But anyway,
You're right. You're
roughly,
right. Anyway,
roughly 100 years
yep,
ago.
yep.
Um, and so yeah, that's got to be a mark. I think 9/11. I I gotta wonder. I just did an episode last night for Up the Middle. Some people call Trump an anomaly. Some say no, he's not. When I say people, I mean like political scientists.
Hmm.
Um, I think the bigger concern is when they say he's not an anomaly. That means the possibility of others like him following. Ron DeSantis, um, Vivek Ramaswamy. People who
Oh,
want the
no.
notoriety and the control more than they want to help the. If Ramaswamy wants to up the voting age, but still send 18-year-olds to the military. Do you
Mhm.
not want to get elected? because you're not going to get the Gen Z people. Um, and
Well, I think, yeah,
so the Donald Trump era.
he may be banking on the fact that Gen Z people aren't going to vote anyway.
Oh, he needs to listen to the liberal side. That's who all the liberal podcasters are.
I know, but get them out of their seats for the school board election?
Yeah,
Did we?
it's not a local
No.
thing. No, I think the reason for
So,
that is there's technology has brought so many people their 10 minutes of fame so fast. Something like I do a video on TikTok promoting Yergz Radio and Up the Middle and whatever, and it gets a couple hundred views and that's it. Somebody does a video on TikTok putting a breath mint into a bottle of soda and explodes, and it's got thousands of views. I
yep.
learned that back when Dave Fisherowski taught us not to do that, or John Carr.
Mhm.
And so the younger podcasters are talking about Joe Biden. They're not talking about Brad Updegrove because they want that national attention.
Right.
And but yeah, I
Well, we'll
there
see.
yeah, he's I just think this Trump era.
Well,
Hopefully,
let's see. One of the things in teaching British literature back in the day was to recall those moments in history that were transforming. The printing press, what the birth of Christ, transforming, right?
yeah.
The printing press, transforming. And I used to ask the kids, what do we got today? And there were considerations about, well, it was the invention of the computer, but that really wasn't it. It wasn't the invention of the computer so much as the internet.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in time, Trump comes along. It's time for another, yeah, transforming person.
Did we talk about
Oh, the second
a
coming,
bunch
right?
of a bunch of I don't know what generation exactly they were, but they were given a rotary telephone and were told to order a pizza,
Oh,
and they didn't know how
yes.
to dial the phone.
They didn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So, and cursive writing. So,
Yeah, that's not even being taught at all.
I know. That's really scary. So,
Wow. I mean, how are you going to sign your
anyway,
name?
pardon me?
How are you going to
I
sign your
know.
name?
Well, we're doing DocuSign, right?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
We
Yeah.
don't need to write our names anymore. We're doing DocuSign. And our initials will do just fine, and those we can print. So,
I
right?
Here I am talking about the old
Times
days.
are changing. Times are changing.
Yeah, really.
So, what else you got? Anything positive you think that may be coming along that will become a historic moment? We've talked about some negative ones, right? JFK, 9/11, COVID, Trump. Anything positive you think
Well, I think the
coming up?
internet's definitely one of them. It has made lives easier, and I think better. I was able to homeschool Zach much more easily with the internet than if I would have had to spend thousands of dollars on books that he's not going to read.
Right, right.
Um, Healthcare, and I don't mean like Obamacare. I mean like actual medicine, modern medicine.
Hmm.
We're taking a heart out of a person and putting it into another one.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing, I mean, think about what brain surgery really is on a very basic level. It is one brain the brain of the surgeon, fixing itself.
Mhm. Mhm.
What else can do that besides finally AI?
Well, now there's a whole other topic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What concerns you about AI?
This wasn't supposed to get out, but it did. The military did a drill with AI programmed drones. And the mission of the drone was to attack this building after having received the permission from a human pilot that
To
was
attack.
flying with them. The drones in flight figured out that they would not be able to accomplish their mission without that permission. So they shot down the human.
Get out.
Yeah. And it's a drill, so it was all simulation, so it wasn't nobody actually
Right.
died, thank God. They
Right.
figured out that, hey, maybe we
Still.
should do this in a video store first. But yeah, that wasn't supposed to get out. And I saw that on like one of the UFO things or whatever. I don't know, when that one of the shows that plays on my smart TV.
Very good. Well, where are we on this episode?
We're a little bit better than the last one, but we should be ready.
Well, I would like to encourage our listeners. How's that? If
Yeah,
they have moments like Yergz and I shared today, if you have moments after which your lives were different, maybe better, maybe just different, we'd love to hear about
absolutely,
your transforming moments. What do you think? Okay.
absolutely. And if
So
they
let me
already
let
have
the
our
teacher give an assignment, huh?
Yep. If they already have our regular contact info, like Craig, messages you directly, that's fine. But they can also send any moments like that to news, NEWS, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. And I will collate them there and
Sounds good.
forward them to Jane, and we'll share. And we will talk about you on the radio and the internet. And we're not on the radio. Where are we? We're on podcasting.
Podcast
Got it all
land.
blends together.
Very good. Well, I'm Jane Stahl,
And I'm Yergz.
and this is.
Both sides now.
See you next time.
See you again.